Now this is a lovely bit of brisket beef. Now brisket is quite a tough meat, which is why you usually end up stewing this. So it's an ideal piece of beef to use to make salt beef. Now some of the stuff you see in the supermarket when you buy salt beef from the delicatessen is absolutely rubbish. It tastes too much salt, not enough beef, not enough flavour. So hopefully what we're going to do today is start the process of making a decent piece of salt beef for everybody to enjoy. The problem with salt beef is only time. What you first need to do is put the beef into a salt and sugar brine, and then you have to turn it over and leave it for 7 days before you can cook it to eat. Now in that time, that 7 days, the ingredients you use to flavour your brine will permeate into the meat, and also the salt and the sugar will help to also start the breakdown process, breaking these tendons and the fats down in the meat to make it tender for you to eat. Then we'll boil it for about 2 hours on the 7th day, and then it should be ready to put into sandwiches or however you fancy eating this. Okay, to make our salt beef, what we need to do first, we need to make a brine, and we need to marinate the beef in the brine for about 7 days. Salt beef is a long process, but it's actually curing the meat first before we use it. Now salt and sugar just doesn't cut it for me. I don't know about you, so we want to add a little bit of flavour to these things. So what I've got here, I've got 4 bay leaves. I've got 2 teaspoons of Juniper Berries. That's the smaller spoon, the white one. And I've got 1 tablespoon of mustard seeds. That's the smaller seed here, the yellow one. I've got 2 teaspoons of peppercorns. I'm using a mixed variety here, black and white peppercorns. I think white is less harsh than the black one. That's my palate. Over here, this is coriander seeds. There's 1 tablespoon of coriander seeds. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add these to 2 litres of water, and that 2 litres of water I'm going to bring to temperature and start to bring to a boil, because what I want to do now is once I've added the flavour to the water, I'm going to add sugar and salt, and then that will be a brine solution that we need to actually marinate our beef in. This is the start of our brining solution. We've got 2 litres of water in a big saucepan, bay leaves, coriander seeds, peppercorns, mustard seeds, and what we're going to do there, we're going to add in our juniper berries, and then we're going to add in a touch of saltpeter. Now saltpeter is a preserving substance that allows the meat to stay a pinker colour than if you didn't add it. Now the chemists among you also know saltpeter to be an ingredient of gunpowder. So we're not trying to blow you up, we only want to put a little touch of this in to help preserve the meat. So I've just measured out 50 grams of saltpeter. That's potassium nitrate if anybody's interested in that sort of thing. So let's add that in now. So this is 300 grams of soft brown sugar that I'm going to add into my 2 litres of water. I'm going to use 175 grams of kosher salt, we already have, plus another 175 grams of Himalayan sea salt. Now Himalayan sea salt, as I say, is a lot saltier in flavour than the kosher salt. So what I need to do now is just blend the mixture up a little bit, and hopefully this will flavour the salt enough, flavour our stock enough to make it tasty, but not overpower it with salt. Now, I'm not sure if you can see this. The outer layer is the kosher sea salt. There's a darker mound of salt here, which is the Himalayan sea salt. Now what we're going to do is just mix that up, and we're going to add that to our stock, our flavourings and our sugar. So we'll just leave this to simmer for 10 minutes, stirring it to make sure we get all of our sugar and our salt dissolved. Our brine is actually on the hob now. The sugar I've measured out and the salt need to dissolve into 2 litres of water. So what I need to do now is to prepare the beef for when that brine solution is ready, will permeate into the meat. So I need to start stabbing this. Now what I'm going to do is just use a big fork, and we just sort of take the fork, stab the meat all over. This will allow the salt solution and the sugar solution we're going to use to get inside the meat and flavour the meat from the inside out. Don't be shy. This is the ideal time to vent your frustration on somebody, out on something that's not going to fight back. So just keep putting holes in this. Be as rough or as gentle as you like, as long as you go over the whole piece of beef and make holes. Don't forget the underside, that's the important bit too. Our brine is now finished and cooled down. So you need to get yourself a container big enough to put your beef in. I'm using a big Tupperware container. So all we need to do now is just pour the brine over the top of the beef. Just gently pour it all in. Leave all the bay leaves, all the peppercorns and everything in the mixture, in the bowl. So once you have your beef in your brine mixture, all we need to do now is leave this in the fridge with a lid on, and when it comes to the next 7 days, that's how long we're going to keep it for, we need to turn the beef in the brine every single day, at least once. So all we would do is that, and then put it back in the fridge and leave.